sent the Florida salute. I'm your host, Bob Peters, and I have a Navy veteran with me who also happens to be the commander of American Legion Post 219 in Fruitland Park, a nice friendly post, Mr. Larry Miller. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me today. I've looked forward to this happening, and it's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you here, but I'm going to ask you, where'd you come from? Are you originally a Floridian, or?
Well, I am. I was born in Orlando, Florida, but right after World War II. And my father was a small contractor in Orlando after the war, and he originally was from South Carolina and always wanted to go back home, and he bought a farm outside of Columbia, South Carolina, in a little rural community, and after living in Florida for about 6 years, we moved to Columbia, and actually the little town was Gaston, South Carolina, and I grew up on a farm in Gaston, South Carolina, and came back to Florida every year because we still had family members in the Orlando area, so we stayed very closely connected still to Florida during those years.
What did you have on the farm?
Well, ironically, my dad just raised about everything, but primarily we were chicken farmers. We had 28,000 fryers and broilers that we raised, and I got to learn how to work every day of the week, 7 days a week, from the time I was about 8 years of age and till I joined the Navy, and that was one of the major reasons why I joined the Navy. I said, God, you got to get me off of this chicken farm. It's killing me. And so,
I hear that a lot from some of my guests. They turned out to be fighter pilots, this and that. And I just had to get away from the farm. I wanted to get out.
Oh, he's working me to death. My father had emphysema, and he had some major health issues. And basically, I was the one that did all the labor work. And so I said, I'm out of here at 18 and joined the Navy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what year was that?
Actually, I joined the Navy and went in 1964. And I am now 76 years of age, and I had the craziest Navy career anybody could have. I was actually have 6 honorable discharges, and it was...
Wait a minute. That's 6 honorable discharges?
Honestly, and they're all framed. I have all framed honorable discharges, but I joined the Navy in 1964 and was stationed aboard. That's my picture right there as a young seaman. And that was aboard the USS Shenandoah AD-26 out of Norfolk, Virginia. And I got very lucky. I learned in high school, I learned how to just tear a typewriter all to pieces. And they put me in the deck division on the USS Shenandoah out of Norfolk. And I just happened to be chipping paint right outside the captain's office. And I heard a Navy chief say, I sure do need a yeoman striker, someone that knows how to type. And I perked my head up and I said, well, Chief, I know how to type. And he said, who are you? And I said, well, I'm in deck division. My name is Seaman Miller. And he said, get in here. I'll give you a typing test. And he put me on an IBM Selectric typewriter, and I banged out about 55 words a minute. And I had me a job in the Navy. And because I went in under the reserve program, and that was a 2-year initial enlistment. And ended up being the yeoman to the ship's captain, did all of his personal paperwork. It was Captain W.F.V. Bennett, and Captain Bennett was a fabulous man and treated me really like a son, even though he had the rank and I did all of his paperwork. I had quite an interesting 2-year career, and in fact, even he said that he could have gotten me an appointment to Annapolis during that time frame, and I was just a boy off the farm, and I told him I'd never forget him. I said, Captain, that's really great, but I don't know whether I'm smart enough to be in the Naval Academy. And but anyway, I got out of the Navy off that 2-year enlistment and honorably separated, and then went back into a reserve unit in Columbia, South Carolina, and pretty much forgot about the Navy for a few years. And then all of a sudden the issues came up and things came up.
Like Vietnam and everything?
Well, Vietnam I kind of skipped over. In fact, when Vietnam started, I had a terrible job. It was, I was with the 6th Fleet over in the Mediterranean Sea, and So I was roughing it over there aboard ship in Palma, Mallorca, and the Riviera, and other places. And so,
Really
well,
tough, huh?
well, it was tough duty, but someone had to do it.
Yeah,
And the captain was so good to me. He was such a gentleman. In fact, I kept up a little bit with him, and he passed away in 1990 over in Daytona Beach. He was a wonderful, wonderful person, and I was very lucky that the person that was my boss on board the ship, the Navy chief I worked for, was a Christian. He was from Texas, and I communicated with him a few years ago. He's like 88 years old. He remembered me just like it was yesterday, and I told him that I had retired from the Naval Reserve, and he said, "Well, I knew you could do that," but I had a good start, and so that's where I joined the Navy.
So you did 2 years active, then you went in the reserves, right?
Yeah.
So how long were you in the reserves? Because obviously you went back to sea again because I see operations.
Oh yeah,
Desert
we
Storm,
have
everything. So
that's,
when'd you go back in?
it's really neat. I was a sales rep in Knoxville, Tennessee. I had been trying to move to Tennessee, and my wife and I moved up there. She was with the federal government. And in fact, my wife, Kay, had 30 years with the federal government. And I had a sales territory in East Tennessee, and I ran out of gas one day. And I coasted into the Naval Reserve Center in Knoxville, Tennessee's parking lot, and called my wife and told her, because she had used my car the day before, and I didn't realize it was out of gas.
You should know that. They
And
all
I
do
know
that.
it.
They all do that.
Yeah, but in this case, it was my own, but it ended up being a great story because I coasted into the parking lot and I went into the recruiting office at the Naval Marine Corps Reserve Center in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1979. Now, I had been out of the Navy since about 1968. So that was an 11-year gap.
Yeah, that's quite.
Walked in there and I asked this Senior Chief Petty Officer, Senior Chief Julian, I'll never forget his name, and he said to me, "Hey, I'll let you use my phone." And cell phones weren't in existence then. And he said, "Have you ever thought about going back? Were you ever in the service?" And I said, "Yes, I was. I was in the Navy." And he said, "Well, really? When?" Next thing I know, while I'm waiting on my wife to come, I'm filling out paperwork because I joined the Navy when I was 18, so I was only like 29 years old or 30. Next thing I know, I got everything processed, went back in, didn't have to go to boot camp and anywhere else, and I ended up going back into the Navy Reserves. Well, after several years in the reserves, I had an opening for a recruiter at the Naval Marine Corps Reserve Center. Mm-hmm. And I took the job as a recruiter. And that's where I had some gold wreath awards, but what you see here.
Let's move it over a little bit closer here so that you can point to it. And
but so my accumulation of stuff came, most of it, by being in the SEABEES battalion going to Saudi Arabia. But anyway, I joined. And I got the best duty. They put me into, I was with Naval Electronic Systems Command unit. And most everybody in that unit were 05s, 04s, Navy commanders, captains, because it was a unit. And I was just kind of thrown into the mix to be able, because I was in supply then, I changed my rate over to storekeeper. So it was real cool. I ended up being in picking up points. Of course, my 2 years active duty was credited for all time in service. Mm-hmm. And so here I am at the Naval Marine Corps Reserve Center doing active duty 2 weeks a year active duty. And got some great duty stations, Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up doing a TAD up at the Pentagon with Naval Electronic Systems Command and worked for a Navy 3-star admiral up there on 90 days. And it was really a fun time. Went into recruiting duty and put 300 people into the reserves in 5 years. I was recruiter in charge of the station, and myself, I was credited with putting 300 people in, and I think it was a little bit over 300.
Do you know, I got to tell you a story. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but when I turned 18, the draft was coming in, and just got out of high school. I was 1A.
Yeah.
And my uncle, who was awarded the Distinguished Cross for Heroism on the beaches of D-Day, United States Army. And he says to me, "What are you going to do?" I says, "I guess I'm going to let them draft me. I don't know. I mean, there's no jobs now or nothing, and everything was terrible." He says, "No, you're going to join the Navy or you're going to join the Air Force."
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I can't swim, and
Well, I can't. I was raised on it.
I almost drowned as a kid, but that's another story. But I went down to see a guy similar to you. He had all them hash marks all over his sleeve there. Yeah, he had all that. And I walked down the flight of stairs, and he looked at me and said, there's a word I can't say, "Do you want?"
No.
I said, "Nothing, sir." I turned around, walked back up those stairs, and joined the Air Force. I was in my Navy career.
I was determined I was going to be in the Navy because my brother Howard was in the Navy, and he was 9 years older than me, and he was my hero. And he told me all the great things, all the on the ship he was on in the Mediterranean Sea. Yeah, the accumulation of all these hash marks came about through broken service and in service too.
Yeah, this is where I want you to get to. How you got 6.
That's 24 years totally cumulative. In fact, when I went up to Washington and was on that 3-star admiral staff, when I checked into him, the admiral stood up and saluted me. He said, "You got more gold on your arm than I do." And he said, "How in the world are you still the rank you are?" And I said, "Well, sir, it boils down to this. I've had such a crisscross career that," I said, "I believe I'm the most senior first-class petty officer in the Navy, and it must be destined that I don't want to lose that time in service and go down lower and be a junior chief." And he just died of laughing, but he was a great guy, and but when the cumulative of my service was really my pay entry base date is 29 January 1964. But when I went back in and finished out my whole career to get 20 years in, I ended up with 6 honorable discharges, and they actually are framed at my house. And it was because you could do a 2-year enlistment from time to time in case it was kind of like, well, we'll allow you to do this enlistment. So everything else from the first enlistment to when I ended up in 1994, which was a period of 30 years, accumulated honorable discharges through participating in the reserves. Well, the unusual thing happened. I did my 5 years recruiting duty and called to, and they put me in a Navy SEABEE battalion. And the SEABEE battalion was out of Alabama is where the headquarters was at, but it was a Naval Mobile Construction Battalion 24. And they were one of the best reserve battalions, if not the best. They had won best of type several times in the Navy. And that's how I ended up with the Battle E, and a lot of these were cumulative from the being in the SEABEES. And that career spanned me over until the time I retired from 1990 to 94 when I retired. And I ended up being called up for the Gulf War. So I thought everything was hunky-dory in Larry Miller land, because I had just, everything I'd done in the Navy was just, I had stationed with admirals, I had been stationed with senior officers and senior enlisted, and I was always really good at writing and typing and flow of words, and so I ended up doing most of the fitness reports or the evaluations for our detachment in Knoxville, and because I was fluid and being able to say how great of a guy you were. So then it really turned the other direction. I got a set of orders and the SEABEES to go to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And unbeknownst to me, they were gearing up for what was to come for the Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Well, in my particular pay grade, we had 724 SEABEES at our battalion, NMCB 24. And of all things, they picked me to go to a work project in California for Commander Pacific Fleet. There was about 3 or 4 of us that went, a Navy commander, and the project was going south on them in California. They had all kind of problems on it that wasn't meeting their construction goals, and I was a supply material logistics guy. So they reached out and picked me, and I ended up going to 29 Palms, California, in the desert on this work project. Well, unbeknownst to me, we got it was getting me trained and some of the senior NCOs, I believe, at the time for what we might be needed for desert training. So came back, sent me to advanced infantry training to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina with the Marines. And I was able to, I had a shot expert on M16s. I've been a hunter most of my life, and I cut a real high score, and I ended up, of all things, not doing anything to do with supply. We were sent to Saudi Arabia somewhere around for Thanksgiving of 1990, and I'm over in the desert of Saudi Arabia, material logistics guy, and so one of the guys said, "Petty Officer Miller, the commanding officer and them want to see you." And I said, "Really?" Went to the command post, and I'm sitting there in the Navy. The green cloth is when you've been written up, or it's when the commanding officer is giving you a lot of, you might be in trouble. And I sat down, and they had one chair sitting in front of the commanding officer, and there was a Navy SEAL lieutenant commander sitting there, a command master chief, and they had my service record out on the table. And I said, "Sirs," I said, "have I done something wrong?"
Yeah, uh-oh.
And the commanding officer, who retired as an admiral, Admiral McGarrah, he lives in Atlanta now, was the commanding officer. And he said, "Well, we've looked at your service record, and it's quite interesting." And I'd always had nice evaluations, and he said, "We need someone to be in charge of the security platoon for the regiment, a senior enlisted man." And I said, "Well, they got other people higher than me." And of all things, he shoved my record over to the Navy SEAL lieutenant commander that was there, and he looked at it, and he said, "Miller," he said, "if you survive me for the next 3 weeks, because I've already gone through X number of people trying to find somebody that would be over the security platoon for the battalion." And he said, "If you survive my training," he said, "you're going to be in charge of the security platoon." And I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Well, your evaluation speaks for itself, but," he said, "one thing that was into it is that you always accomplished your mission that was given to you, and you always put your people first." Well, by God, I went through his training. He about killed me for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I ended up surviving that and being put into, I was in the desert of Saudi Arabia, at El Jabal, Saudi Arabia. And most of the ribbons that you see here is the Southwest Asia Service Medal, the Saudi Arabian Medal, the one that has the gold device in it. Mm-hmm. The one that has the one I'm the proudest of, we were attached to, the SEABEES always work when we go to war for the Marines. And that device, it has the Marine Corps device in the center of it, because that one right there shows
There's
that
the second one down there,
yeah,
right?
the second one below the battle efficiency E. That one there has 2 stars and the anchor globe of the Marine Corps, because we were attached to 1st Marines. I was attached to 1st Marines 3rd Regiment NMCB 24 during the Gulf War. Oh. And so if you're attached to the Marines, and that was given to our battalion through the Marines and the other ones. So most of all of this was cumulative because of going to the Gulf and being servicing into that area. Came back, all went well, and one of my last things I was proud of, and I've got a beautiful story to go with it, I had we had a work project at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and this was in 1993. I came back from the Gulf in 91, and I had a set of orders to go to Camp Lejeune for 4 months on a work project, and it was in November. And I don't know whether any of you've ever been to Camp Lejeune, but that's where 2nd Marine Division is headquartered.
I know some people
recon
have, but I have
and
not. Yeah.
all AIT, Advanced Infantry Training people that are in the Marine Corps and or Navy SEABEES or Hospital Corpsmen go to train there. So here I am. I go into Camp Lejeune, and I got I have my dress blues on, and when I checked in, these here. Now,
Yeah.
and I go to Personnel Support Detachment, and I check in, and they give me a room at the BEQ, and I change into the greens. And the first question I had was, where's the chow hall? And the next one was, where's the club at?
Yeah.
And so they said, well, the club is right across the road from the commanding general's headquarters at the parade field. And I said, wow, that's cool. I said, what time's chow go down? They told me. And so I went over to the club. And on my way to the club, there's this command sergeant major of the Marine Corps, or a sergeant major, that was drilling the troops out there. And this colonel, this full-bird colonel, was standing there watching him. And I said, and I always loved the Marines and how they operated. And this sergeant major is standing there and drilling the troops, and this colonel came up to him and he said, Sergeant Major, and he saluted him smartly, the sergeant major did, and he said, yes, sir. He said, well, you're drilling the troops for my retirement ceremony. And he said, I'd like to make some suggestions for this ceremony. And this Marine Corps Sergeant Major looked at him and he said, sir, with all due respect, if you'll go sit down on those bleachers over there, I'll give you the most beautiful retirement ceremony you've ever seen. Sir. This colonel turned around and sat down on the bleachers, and I said, wow, I like this. Walked into the club, and most of the enlisted men's club, they had a junior side and a senior NCO side or enlisted side, and I was E6, and I went to the right. And it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and so I'm sitting there having a brew at the bar in my Navy greens, in my CB greens, and this big hand, I'm sitting on the bar and I turn around, and this hand about the size of a basketball put us on my shoulder. And I looked around, and I'm looking directly at a belt buckle, just like this. And I look up, and there was about a 6'5" E9 Recon Marine standing there, Sergeant Major. And it wasn't the guy that was doing the drill. He was Command Sergeant Major of the base. And he says to me, what are you doing on my base, blankety blank, CB?
Oh.
And I sat there, and I looked at him, and I looked up at him like this, and I said, by God, Sergeant Major, you're the ugliest Marine I have ever seen in my life.
That doesn't sound like a good move.
No, it was a good move, because the Marines love to hack on you. And he sat there, and I'd been with him, stationed with him in Saudi Arabia. And I said, I'm going to just see what he does. Everybody, and there must have been 60 people in that bar. Every one of them look over there at this little Navy CB and this big Recon Marine. He looked at me, and I said, he said, well, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here to build these weapons cleaning stations for these battalions, all the battalion quarters. And I said, and also I'm going to be here about 4 months. And next on top of that, I said I got to put out about 265 tractor trailer loads of riprap on all these tank trails that y'all have torn up with these tanks. And he looked at it and he said, welcome to Camp Lejeune, CB. And he turned to all of the people in there and he said, every time this CB is in this, here getting a beer, somebody better be buying him a beer. And I turned around, Pete, and I said, by God, Sergeant Major, I love you already. But my career was just, had the moments of Saudi Arabia of tension, and we had a lot of things that we did over there, and our CB battalion suffered through medical issues that a lot of the Gulf War and the war over Iraq with the chemical issues of the enriched uranium shells that they thing. But I had a great career, and it was except for 1 or 2 little glitches, and came out and ended up being at Underwater Construction Team 1, Little Creek, on a 90-day assignment. And the CBs are very small. They're only about 14,000 of us in the whole Navy.
You know, and there's another one standing right over there.
And I see him shaking his head, yes.
Yeah.
But I was with the battalion, I was with 3rd Regiment, and that was then Underwater Construction Team 1 was the Steedham, the young Seabee that was killed by the terrorist over, and I think it was in Germany, or I was that happened before me, but he was, and all he had done is gotten a haircut. They had told him before he left Road to Spain that he needed to get his hair cut, and he got it cut like a Marine. And so when the terrorists took over that plane, they picked him out personally, singled him out, and was abused beyond belief. And of course, the Navy named a ship after the young man. But I worked for Underwater Construction Team 1 in Little Creek, Virginia, and I was there in '93 on another project, because the SEABEES get a lot of active duty time because we're so small and they always have construction projects and we're undermanned. So they pulled, if you had a certain specialty, if you were a reservist, I would see it come out that they had, my job allowed me to take off for 3 or 4 months at a time. And because I was in my personal job. And I would take a TAD assignment every year for years. In fact, I went out with a lot of retirement points. In fact, because much more than what a normal reservist would go out of it. So I make about 50% of what a similar rank would be if they had served 20 years active duty. I make about 50% of what they would be drawing today and their retirement. So
you're buying later.
Well,
I'm only kidding. I
know it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've had a great career, obviously, and I was telling, mentioned before, this weekend I do several shows on a weekend.
Yeah.
You're the first one. That guy over there, he's the second one. He's a CB.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing the man who's doing the play at Mel and Pat's Theater, the actor.
Yeah.
He was a CB. So I got 3 CBs out of 4 shows today.
Well, the beautiful thing about the SEABEES, and I mean this, I'm one of the best, I have a retired Army colonel that's a friend of mine that I've known for years. He said when he was in Vietnam, he said he was a Green Beret. And he said they had a landing area for helicopters and everything to come in, and they were under constant attack. Well, the Seabee battalion that was attached to over in Vietnam, there were some of them doing construction projects, sent over this one kid with a dump truck and whatever equipment that he needed. And this kid, he said they would be getting mortar attacks, and if he'd run out there with his dump truck and start repairing the landing zone under fire. And they said they had never, he said the bravery of this young man was just phenomenal. But the CBs we build and we fight, and we got a can-do spirit that there's nothing, I believe, that anybody could ask us that we wouldn't be able to provide for them. And what's ironic, the Marine Corps has done a wonderful job over the years of, well, what they do is they get a lot of credit for a lot of what CBs do. And because we're such a small, and this is my own personal opinion. But
yeah, I'm not getting into this because I know a lot of Marines.
But I've seen it first at hand. The Marines do what they do best. But one of the big things that we love to do is hack on the Marines. And they love to hack on us. And it kind of is with the underwater construction team I was with in Little Creek, Virginia. There was SEAL team, I believe it was 5 on Little Creek. And across the street from our UCT-1 underwater construction team was a Chiefs Club right across the street. Well, SEAL team was down the road, and our guys, no joke, we had some guys they were smoking, and they could run 6 miles, these guys. And when I got attached to that unit, the first day I was there, it was on a Friday, and the officer in charge of that unit put us all in a circle. There was only 52 of us in UCT-2, and UCT-1 had 52. UCT-1 is where I was at, in Little Creek. By God, if they didn't take, and that commanding officer, he was a lieutenant commander, and he said, "Buddy Officer Miller, what exercise do you want to do?" And I go, "Well, you mean I get to choose?" He said, "Yeah, you're the new guy." And I said, "Well, let's do 50 jumping jacks." We did it, and everybody did it. By God, he went to the next man, and he said, "Well, yeah, we're going to do 50 push-ups." Finally, after I did about 15, I was dying, and he turned to, I looked at him, and I said, "Skipper," I said, are we going all the way around this circle? He said,
my heart will take it.
and he says, well, we're going to go as far as we can go until somebody pretty much craps out on us. And but they were the most phenomenal. They used to hack on the seals. They would go out in the Chesapeake Bay in a little boat, a little swift boat, jump out and swim in a mile and a half. Well, our guys, they would go out, we'd ask them, well, how far did you guys go out? They'd say, oh, we went out a mile and a half. Well, we'd swear up and down we went out farther than they did, no matter what they did. But it was a great experience.
Camaraderie in the service is great.
Was,
every branch picks on one another,
Well, the SEABEES supported everybody, and the Marines loved us, and we loved the Marines. And really, you ask about any Marine that you see, who do they respect? And they'll say they're corpsmen first. And if they've been ever attached to any SEABEES, because in the middle of the desert, we had hot showers, we had hot chow, we had everything. We had everything. We even had a hooch over there. I was over the security platoon, and somebody told me that they were making homemade wine over there, and I found out it was one of my own men. He was from
Listen, world, everybody picks on the Air Force and say how we had it made. Now you're hearing the real story over here.
Yeah, what we call the Air Force. You know what? This is good
That'd be nice now.
It is, and we call them the Eagle Scouts of the military. Because my son, when he was
trapped in this,
was an E3 at Shaw Air Force Base, and right before I retired, and I went to visit him, and I swear to God, he had a one-man room. He had a refrigerator, a microwave, and whenever I knew officers that did more than in one-man rooms in the Navy, and I told him, and he said, "Well, Dad."
See, there they go, getting jealous again.
He said,
"You're jealous. You're jealous.
You should have joined the Air Force." But
you're jealous. Hey, I don't know how much time we have left, but talking to you, and I know you're very proud of your American Legion Post 219
Yes,
there
I
in
am.
Fruitland Park, and you got some great people there. One of them, Jim Maynard.
Oh, yeah.
Who's
Jim
highly,
he is my hero.
He's your service officer,
Yes.
and he is a hero. He's on our YouTube channel too.
Yes.
And I gave you some cards. I want you to check it out because
I
Ed
will.
DeBoer, this guy was in Vietnam and World War II, and he.
No,
was
he was
a CB.
Vietnam. Jim was drafted out of New York.
No, I'm talking about this other guy, Ed DeBoer, who's on my.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to watch his
Yeah.
show.
Oh, Ed is. Yeah, Ed was on B-17s. I think it was.
Nope. This
Yeah.
guy you don't know. He's gone.
Oh, he passed away.
Passed
Okay,
away
I'm
a long
sorry.
time ago.
Yeah,
but he was a CB,
Yeah.
and Ed was he was in
That's
World
nice
War
to
II.
keep the board. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
I've heard of the name. Yeah.
tell us about your post, how it got named, where it is, and what does it take to be a member?
Well, I joined that post 13 years ago and was very busy in my business life, and just fell in the door one day on my way home from work. And it was in Fruitland Park before we built this new post. And I went in, rang the buzzer, and there was the guy at the bar, Senior Chief Pauly. He passed away now. He was a swift boat.
I knew him.
Pauly
He had long hair.
Oh, yeah, he
went
had
back
a
up.
ponytail. He was a retired E8 engineman.
Yeah.
And I walked in the door, and I showed him my retired ID card, and he said, "Sit down, CB, have a beer." And I signed up right there on the spot with and ever since then, I started participating more and more. I was on the executive board for 4 years, and then they needed a chaplain, and I've always been very devoted to trying to serve the Lord for the best of I can in my church. And so I took a chaplaincy job, and then for 2 to 3 years served under Jim Maynard, was commander of the post. And so little by little, I came back, and I decided to take chaplaincy again. I'd had to take a hiatus for about 12 months. I had I had cancer from the Gulf War, from the chemical exposure from the oil well fires.
Yeah.
Saddam Hussein blew up, but miraculously, I had to take about a year off and went down to 129 pounds, and today I'm cancer-free. and have a nice 30-centimeter cut down through the middle of my chest. But for 4 years now, I've gotten a clean bill of health, and God is good.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
The good die young.
Yeah, but
You'll be here forever.
Well, our post is very active since the pandemic ended. We are right now, as of this week, I think we had 38 people transfer in just this month alone.
Wow.
Or what we picked up, our new membership and also the DMS membership. But we are right now, percentage-wise, unless somebody beats us out of over 300 posts, we have the fastest growing membership of any post in the state. We're sitting at 167% for the year. And my commitment, along with, I have a wonderful executive board.
You got a great auxiliary, too.
And the auxiliary is wonderful. We have over 200 members of our auxiliary. We have about 100 members of our SAL. And when I took over, just like whenever I was involved with management and companies or sales, I wanted to make it very simple for people to come in and not feel like they had to go through well, I could get into you can get into my post our post, a lot easier than probably getting in, as long as you got a military ID card, into, used to say, at Kings Bay, Georgia, at the ballistic missile submarine base. As long as I show my ID card, I can get in through the front gate. And I've tried, the first thing I wanted to do is make it simple. Instead of saying, what post you're a member of, or what are you doing here, I would say, well, thank you for being here, veteran. And come on in and let me sign you in. And I would sign them in, and so would other people. And we took a real proactive approach of treating our veterans and the American Legion family members, no matter where they're from, that like it was their home away from home. And we have driven that point, and we've been blessed, I can just say. And it's worked for us, and we just we try to go do a lot for the community.
Speaking of which, what do you do for the community?
Last night
Don't you do something with the ROTC for the?
Well, we have the what they call the Sea Cadets.
Yes, the Sea Cadets.
The Sea Cadet program that is sponsored there. We have that was started out 6 or 7 years ago, and that is still there. It's named after, it's called Thomas R. Norse Battalion, named after a Navy SEAL that won the Medal of Honor, who lives out, I believe, in Wyoming or out Montana or someplace. And then we have we have the annual Vet Fest in March, that recognizing, remembering one of our past commanders who died about 5 years ago while he was in office, Dave Roby. And we did that this year. And last night I was honored, along with another member, to give a check for $3,200 to the police department of Fruitland Park, and
that's
to the
wonderful.
chief. And last year we bought a dog for him called, and the chief named the dog after Dave Roby. The dog's name is DeRoby.
That's cool.
There's a lady police officer that is in charge of the dog. And this year they're going to take the $3,200 and use it for whatever they feel necessary. And then one year they used it for buying bulletproof vests. So we give money to the grammar school, the little Fruitland Park school. Any veteran that comes in and his proof of being a veteran and he's in need, we will help, and to try to do something. So that kind of falls on my shoulders and for the authority. But the the auxiliary does phenomenal things. Also, we have the Boys and Girls State that we support. And there's a multitudes of things that we are gotten ourselves involved with.
No, we're running out of time. You know, and I do have another gentleman over here. Tell people where you're located. Do you have a website, a phone number, if somebody's interested?
Well, our actually, we're very easy to find, even though we're hidden behind a back street, Fruitland Park, which we're on 194 West Fountain Street in Fruitland Park, which is only about, it's right next to the Lions Club. And if they take the old road, that two-lane road that came through down through Fruitland Park, they would find Fountain Street. We're not that hidden. Our hours are from 11 to 9, Monday through, we're open from 11 to 9, Monday through Saturday. And on Sunday, we're open to 12 to 8. We do have, certain things that we offer to, and our veterans are, as long as you're a veteran and you have proof of an honorable discharge and either DD 214 or show your honorable discharge itself, the physical discharge,
Any
or
one
a
of the
VA
six?
card, or a VA card, or also, so the our rules are, show us that, and you can join. And even when you come in, you can come in as a guest, signed in for 3 times. And so we try very, very hard to, we don't make it complicated, but we do have to live by the guidelines of our own bylaws and also the
American
department
Legion.
and the American Legion, yeah.
Yeah. So if I came in there with 6 honorable discharges,
Yeah, we'd have problems.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be, we're glad you served and don't know what the circumstances is. And I
Well,
don't
you
wanna
got
know.
6 of them.
But I know what, but I got 6 all good ones, so.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. All good ones.
But I've heard of other guys like me that have had that many during the years, and because each time I got 4 DD 214s in my record. But I got,
Do you have a web page?
yes, we do. And but the best way to get a hold of us is if you want to see the activities. Our adjutant puts everything up on our Facebook. And we're more of what's going on, what's been done, what is available, what lunches are coming up. We have great pictures to go with it. And I hate to say this, but sitting here talking to you, the one thing I can never remember is my own web page over the email. I can remember every other number because it's kind of a John J. Gallup Post was named and as our post name. But also on my on my cards as commander, I put my personal email and I put my personal cell phone number because I'm a very verbal person, obviously, and I'm a salesperson at heart, and I really want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I know if they have my cards, they will, but I pull up the emails every day. But if you go up and just pull up American Legion Post 219, Fruitland Park, Florida, Facebook, it pops right up on Google, and you can go right into that page, and it gives you all the good dope about what the calendar is, what everything that's going on.
Okay, and I will say this, I've been there several times, and
Yes, you
I
have,
have
Pete.
friends
Yeah.
there. It is a very friendly post, and you do a lot. And I know Diane Russo very well.
Diane's a hard worker.
She is. She's amazing, man. And her husband, Chuck.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's time we got to go, buddy.
Good. Well, I've enjoyed this so much, and I'll thank you for inviting me today, and I appreciate
Well,
it.
it's an honor having you here. You know, I learned a lot about you, and of course, Jim Maynard, I learned a lot about him. If you have other veterans down there that may want to come on the show, you have my card.
I will.
And give us a
thanks
call.
again for what you do and all the effort that you put into putting this out.
Well, my partner who's sitting over there, she's kind of quiet. She helps me out immensely. We are a not-for-profit organization.
Yeah.
I don't make a dime. I pay her about 1/3 of what she normally charges.
Oh, well,
And
so-
she didn't even really want
Well-
the money, but I said, I can't look in the mirror and not give you something.
Well, my wife was 30 years federal, and about 10 of that she was with Office of Federal Investigations. And I had an interesting career there, but she retired from the Department of the Army MEPS, Military Entrance Processing, in Knoxville, Tennessee. She was test coordinator for them. So we've got a very deep-seated root. So I have to toe a real tight line when I get home. So thanks again. For
Okay,
the
buddy.
opportunity.
We're going to say goodbye. And I told you a little bit how we do that. We're going to look right at that camera right there. Ready?
Good.
To all our veterans out there, active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.
Thank you so much.
Larry.
Since 2009, Project SOS has assisted our veterans both overseas and here at home to overcome medical issues, homelessness, and disabilities. Initially, our efforts resulted in over 22 clinics opened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Recently, as troops have been withdrawn, we have concentrated on issues here at home. During this past year, we have been able to distribute 42 motorized wheelchairs and numerous mobility devices to our local veterans who have served in World War II and up to and including Afghanistan. We continue to offer solutions to our local homeless veterans in the Ocala National Forest and other Central Florida locations. Project SOS Support Our Soldiers needs your assistance to continue helping a growing homeless veterans population. Over-the-counter medications and personal hygiene supplies are acutely needed. Your financial aid will greatly increase the support they so desperately need.